Hello everybody, Chef Bob over here with another quick presentation. Today we're going to do a Belizean style escabeche soup. So what is escabeche? All right, in its simplest form, escabeche is a broth, whether it be chicken or vegetable broth, with onions. Now, that's in its simplest form. Generally, what they do in Belize is they offer with some sort of other meat products, such as chicken or fish, and I'll get into that in a second. But first, let me go over the ingredients with you all, okay? Now, we're gonna need a lot of onions. I've got 2.5 white onions over here. I have a quart of vegetable stock, but actually what I did was I added a quart of vegetable stock and half a quart of water, right? Then, what else are we gonna need? We're gonna need whole black peppercorns, and we are going to need, I have it right here, is, as they call it in Belize, spice seed, but it's allspice, whole allspice, right? I'm gonna lay that right down there. Obviously, we're not gonna need black pepper grinds unless you wanna add them later. You're gonna need half a teaspoon of oregano, 10 whole black peppercorns, 6 allspice seeds. If you had a whole fresh habanero or jalapeno, that would be good, but I didn't, so I'm using some sliced jalapeno. And again, the vinegar is up to you. I'm putting in 1/3 of a cup of distilled white vinegar. That's what gives this soup its bite, its tang, okay? If you want more vinegar, you add more vinegar. If you want to use another type of vinegar, malt vinegar, red wine vinegar, sherry vinegar, or a combination of those vinegars, that's also fine, okay? So now, my soup, my broth is coming up to a boil. The point is, what I want to do here is I want to cut the onions, and I'm going to cut them in slices about 1/4 inch. So, as I was explaining, in Belize, and I'm sure in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is where this dish originally came from, I believe, they'll do this with seafood or with chicken. So if you were going to add chicken or seafood to this, what you would do is, a little bit of the skin here that I don't need, you would take the chicken, whole chicken, and you would cut it, that's traditionally how it's done with whole chicken. You would cut it into its primal parts, and then you would wash the chicken. If you're in Belize, traditionally that's done with water and vinegar, and that's completely up to you. Or you can just run it under cold running water. That's fine. Then when the broth comes up to a boil, you just add the chicken to it. And that's basically it, guys. Now, if you're going to use seafood, and seafood is also very traditional, in Belize what they'll use is whole fish steaks with the bone in. And again, wash it under cold running water with or without vinegar. And then season it lightly. I forgot to say that, even the chicken, season it lightly with some salt and pepper. And then you would, when it comes to a boil, that's when you would drop it in there. Now, I know this looks like a lot of onion. Believe me, it's not, because once you add it, the onion is going to wilt. And this is basically a really thick soup with, not thick in the sense that it's a thick soup, the broth is thick, but it's got a lot of onion in it, right? So, and that's what gives it its characteristic flavor, and it is so good, and it's also very filling. So, at this point, let's see, yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more onion here. Too much onion, it's never too much. It's never too much. So I'm gonna add, and here we go. There we go. And this onion should be enough. So this is actually 2 onions. So to this broth, I'm gonna add 1/3 of a cup of white vinegar. I'm gonna add my allspice seeds, my whole black peppercorns, and my half a teaspoon of oregano. I'm gonna add my jalapenos. And I'm going to add my onions. The broth is now boiling. And we are going to let it boil only until the onions become soft. So maybe about a minute or so. There we go. And actually, I'm thinking I'm going to add the extra onion to it because I actually think it could use it. So why not? I don't want this onion to go to waste. So here we go. And I'm going to add the rest of this onion. This makes, this soup, in Belize, they do not believe in cold soups. And it's traditionally served hot. But I would not see any problem with serving this soup even cold. And traditionally, it's accompanied with, let me show you. Corn tortillas. So we've got some nice yellow corn tortillas over here, and I'm going to wait for this to boil. And it seems to be coming along just nicely. Now, I was just going over the cuisine of Belize with my students this week, and so this is why I'm doing this for you guys out there. This is for my level ones. We're doing soups, stocks, and sauces. Yesterday we did gazpacho, and today we're doing actually both of them very heavily Spanish influenced. This is mestizo cuisine. This is the cuisine of the Maya and the Latin people of Belize, and oh my God, I wish you could almost smell that. The sweetness of the allspice, which the Spanish people in Belize call pimienta dulce, which means sweet pepper. Sweet pepper, not in the sense of, the one that you cut, but sweet pepper and sweet peppercorns. Now, having said that, if you wanted to add sliced peppers to that, by all means do it. I always tell my students, think outside the box. If a recipe says that you got to follow it this way, that's fine, follow it that way. But if you think of things that you can add to it to make it more interesting or to spice it up or to make it different, by all means do it. I would say that adding very, very thinly sliced peppers to that would also be a pretty cool touch, right? My wife, I've got Mexican oregano growing outside. She does not like Mexican oregano. It's too strong. So I used dry powdered oregano, okay? Now, this is boiling now, and not quite. So my first experience with Escabeche was when I was in Belize. I was the executive chef at the Ramada and at the Radisson Fort George too, but at the Ramada is when I was exposed to this. And the lady who did it was a woman. She was actually Creole. She wasn't even mestizo, she was Creole. And Miss Archer, thank you very much, wherever you are, she's the one who taught me how to make this. My mother-in-law, Mercy, all praise go to you too. She was the one who gave me the ratios of vinegar to allspice to stock and everything. So, let's take a look at how this is coming along. It's running nicely now. And we are going to let this boil for just a couple more minutes. Okay, so I'm going to put this now. How you want this is again a personal thing. Do you like your onions crunchy? Obviously you don't want them raw because then it'll give you that bitter, nasty aftertaste. But if you want them, if you want them really, really soft, boil it longer. I like my onions with a little bit of bite to them, but not too much. So I'm maybe going to cook this for another minute or so, but first I want to taste it and make sure that I've got the proper amount ratio of vinegar to it. So let me taste it. Actually, it tastes really good. The only thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more vinegar, but maybe to make it more interesting, I'm going to add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So maybe a couple of tablespoons, and I'm going to eyeball this. A couple of tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar. I'm going to throw that in there. And it needs some salt. So I always put the salt at the end. This is almost done. You don't want to put the salt in and then the soup reduces and then the saltiness is more pronounced. You want to do it at the end. Now this is almost done, so I'm going to add what to me is about a teaspoon of salt. There we go. And honestly, if this was like country cooking in Belize, they'd probably add a little bit of sugar to this too. But this, I'm going to give it one more minute and let it cook down because there's still a little bit of crunch to the vinegar. I'm sorry, to the onions. I'm putting away the vinegar. Now, what would be nice in here too is in Belize there is a hot sauce. It's called Mary Sharp. Here in the States, they have a similar version of it. Apparently, the family had a falling out. So half the family came to the United States and they opened up their own product, which they call Melinda's hot sauce. In Belize, instead, the same family stayed behind and they'd been making for longer than I was there, Mary Sharp's hot sauce. And here I've got a few more of them. For instance, this is the smoked habanero. This is their extra hot habanero pepper salt. They're really, really beautiful sauces. So if you wanted to add a little bit of this to it, but first, maybe it's the kind of thing that you might want to add, put it in a bowl and then offer the habanero, the pepper sauce. This one's good because it's got a nice smoky flavor. Is this the same one? This is, smoked habanero sauce, but this one apparently is much darker and it's much richer. Okay, this is ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this off. Oh yeah, this is ready. And I want to show you what it looks like in a bowl. This, folks, is Belizean escabeche. Basically a broth with onions, allspice, oregano, peppercorns, and vinegar. Vinegar is a key ingredient here. If you wanted to add chicken, you can add chicken. If not, fish, or make it vegetarian. Folks, until the next time, Chef Bob here. Take care. Escabeche. Sorry about the noise. People are outside working on the lawn.